As The Acolyte is crashed and burned, getting absolutely destroyed by fans, Amandla Stenberg decided to hit back with an intellectual response. No, I said an intellectual response. Should have stuck to the violin, really, shouldn't she? Let's face it, if you want to convince anyone that isn't Leslye Headland that you're correct, you need a stronger argument than, this is my minge.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Now, this isn't the first time that an actor from Star Wars has come out and attacked the fans.
Some of the fan base just sickened me to my stomach. You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
Or from Disney in general.
The Star Wars fan base really seems to be the most kind of toxic.
She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. I think that show is the best thing Marvel have done since Endgame.
But neither of these people felt the need to make it about their body. They're men, they've got better things to do.
My dear, you should learn to be admired in silence.
I said white people crying, what's the goal?
You're gonna make me beg, aren't you?
And obviously, as much as we all respect the intellectual opinion of somebody that enjoys dancing at a furry convention in a bunny rabbit costume, there are other acolyte topics that need discussing. Like how Leslye Headland believes that capitalizing a word changes its definition. A particularly weird statement when we already have her on film saying this.
I would say arguably the gayest Star Wars.
People have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I'm frankly into it.
Especially when her statements essentially go, well, they are correct though, aren't they?
I just try to treat everything as if we're on RuPaul's Drag Race.
I'm proud to have created that. And really, I feel sorry for the people that can't appreciate my genius.
Come.
And we had people from Disney coming out and going, they just discriminate all the time over there. It's insane. Yeah, they hire and promote people based on their tick boxes and the way they look. It's one of those times where everyone knows when it's going on. The showrunners hint and talk about it as if, ooh, I want to hire a broad range of people. As an intention, I wanted to put people in the room who I felt like hadn't been there before. But I can't go into more detail on that because that would be illegal. You just never expect them to come out and say it that bluntly.
Outside of the confines of heteronormativity, misogyny, and racism.
It's thug life.
I mean, anyone that watches The Acolyte will have worked out that Amandla wasn't hired for her acting ability, despite the fact she's been putting out the most bigoted interviews that I've seen for years.
If you tell someone that you don't see their race, you're actually discrediting their entire experience when thinking about your own privilege.
I had absolutely no idea who she was until this show. And so when you watch it and you find out she can't act at all, you have to wonder why Leslye Headland made this entire show specifically for her.
Leslye and Lucasfilm had already developed the show around me before I even had my first meeting.
Before she even approached Amandla about being in it, she always intended her to be in the role. I have no idea why. Amandla was even in the concept art for The Acolyte.
And that tells me you afraid of the truth.
Oh, sorry, always making that mistake.
Interviews and shows where the spotlight goes, pretending life is tough when I'm in fancy clothes. Cry wolf, cry wolf.
Now, The Acolyte is a show with a small budget of $180 million, and so they had to do things like cut out the fight scene of the Wookiee, because while the fight scene was originally included in the script, it was cut because they didn't have enough money for the budget. That tweet seemingly is now deleted. Not that people didn't screenshot it first. Despite this, they did have enough money for Amandla. Enough money to give Amandla the confidence that she thinks she can teach the world about basic things like this.
It'll manifest as addiction, diseases, and hate.
It is literally the meme.
I think your son's tumor was caused by racism.
I have to make this video, otherwise I'll get cancer, is a strange reason to make it. Even stranger when she's like, you can't say that, hang on, you said this earlier.
If you tell someone that you don't see their race, you're actually discrediting their entire experience when thinking about your own privilege.
Are we supposed to talk about this stuff or not? I need to know.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
Well, I think I've put it off long enough. Gonna have to go through the points of the video on her.
It's about more than just color. It's about black people, poor people, everybody at the bottom.
Self-interest. The one thing she did achieve with this video is that having to edit it and listen to it multiple times is like somebody drilling into your skull. Nails down a chalkboard can't compete with this.
There was this language of privilege and whiteness and wealth that had to observe and adapt to.
But her first complaint is going viral on Twitter because of an interview that she did in 2018. You know the one.
Well, I mean, white people crying actually was the goal.
It's very interesting she brings up when she was a teen, like it matters. I'm sorry, if your argument is I was a child, you shouldn't listen to me then. You haven't taken any back, you still believe the same stuff. Well, Why should we care about what you say at any point? You've been rich and privileged your entire life.
I was 10 when I first started going to a white preparatory school that was really privileged.
You're LARPing. I was running from city to... It's so difficult having to go from TV station to TV station to get paid to do interviews. And I'm gonna stand on the corpses of other people to get there. Yay! That's what makes you the moral one. Using what's happened to other people for your own self-interest, there's a word for it. It's called evil. I cried wolf earlier, but this is like if a wolf actually ate someone and then you use that to make yourself rich and famous. My people. Who are your people? Which people have you collectivized under yourself that you own? Then just as a line of any general bigot. And she goes into the interview. What do you want people to know?
I said white people cry, what's the goal?
I'm a minute into a song to try and rebut something that people have gone viral and said it's unfair, and that's what I said. Of all the technological inventions, the one I want in the future is where your IQ just hovers. Not that people don't generally show theirs on their own.
I say empathy. Oh, that's why they mad at me.
Is it? Is that why they're mad at you? Because the clip was the context. Is that, you want to do this? I want to group all of you up, and then I want you to cry. Why? Because you need to feel bad for me, so you can give me free things. No, it was all about emotion, and now I've got to move through emotion, and everyone's crying about us and lying about us. I'm like, who is us in the first place, dear? And I've tried to get a clip of the interview, but everywhere I look, it just gets, no, you can't have this, you're not American. It's weird, actually, that she put out some weird song of her gyrating rather than the interview in full, if it was really about the context. She's the child of a Karen, that explains a lot, who is American, and Tom Stenberg, who is Danish. My people are oppressed! The Danes? No, you never talk about that, do you? Because it's not beneficial to you. You can't grift that into a career. No one gives the Danes things that they haven't earned, don't deserve, and could never get on their own.
Leslye and Lucasfilm had already developed the show around me before I even had my first meeting.
I guess you could call it activism.
Art is not activism, and art is not journalism.
No one gives the Danes things that they haven't earned and don't deserve.
They splice lines, make hate, they recognize.
They splice lines. One of the reasons that people use really small clips of things is because otherwise it gets copyright struck. That's why. This is something she's doing with her own song. Forcing people to put it into smaller clips, and then you go, oh my god, they're editing it. Yes, you're forcing them to. You're oppressing them. Oh my god, look at the propaganda. What do you think this song is, love? Apart from a delusional rant. They conflate out. Who is out? The Danes? What pain have the Danes got? But no, she wants to appropriate an entirely different continent rather than her own heritage. Firstly, no one conflates pain with violence. So I'm assuming you're talking about actual violence. And then going, it's just pain. No.
Try to weaponize everything.
Nobody needs to weaponize anything you do. They're just quoting what you're saying.
Because I am black and gay and a woman, there are aspects of identity that have been traditionally, historically persecuted.
Whoever convince everybody else in their story controls power.
If you're like, that makes me look bad, maybe take it back. Believe me, if you tried, the amount of articles you'd have to take back. The desperation of oppressors. This is the ultimate law. The multi-millionaire actress in Hollywood who's starring in her own Star Wars show and has always come from a well-to-do family. We know that from her interviews.
There is this language of privilege and whiteness and wealth that had to observe and adapt to.
Is desperately trying to LARP about somebody who's had a problem in their life. At this point, it comes across more as a fantasy. If you rely upon misinformation, like the quotes that I've said.
This is talking about code switching, talking about how to be black, how to not be black.
Stop relying on my text-based interviews or the video of me. As an actress, what you say is documented. It's searchable. All of this comes from an interview she did where people quoted what she said in a video.
Tells me you afraid of the truth.
They quoted the truth, which is why in the video you couldn't call any of them liars.
I said white people cry, what's the goal?
You even admit you said it in your own song. So then she starts shoving her crotch at the camera again. I don't know. I can only assume it's for the same reason Game of Thrones did it. It's a critical term coined by a blogger and television critic, Miles McNaught. I don't know who that is, but what a name. Referring to the use of adult scenes to deliver information to the viewer about the backstory and character motivations. When we're just dumping all this stuff that nobody cares about at them, we need to keep them interested somehow. Here's a crotch. That's all it is. Why the men don't need to do it. You assume they've got something worthwhile to say. Then the funny thing is, after doing that at the camera, her next line is, and now you're listening, I'ma tell you something fascinating. You know one was listening before? Look at this! Okay, now I've got your attention. Let me worm-tongue you. So she goes that the word woke has been changed. It's like, no, it hasn't. They're appropriating it. No, it's a word, love. We use a word to describe a thing. Can't take a word. Point of a word is that it's shared across everybody, so everybody understands what it means. Otherwise, the word is pointless. That probably goes over your head, though. Let's carry on. As last I recall, that was something we created. The Danes. But no, if by we you take the culture that she's appropriating, then yes, it was created by a load of nutters to use to describe what woke means, but it still means the same thing. But because everything it described was disgusting and rancid, it made the word stand for disgusting and rancid. That's why it can kill movies, companies, and careers. Because if you engage in bad ideas, then your company collapses. Because no one else wants anything to do with you. We created that! Like, yeah, we created terrible ideas. Congratulations! So then, once again, she insults the Star Wars fan base. Smart of her. Did you give her an entire paycheck? Because she's costing you billions of dollars right now. Virtue signaling. Not even once. Now they use it to describe everything that... No, it's used accurately. And words have to be used accurately, because otherwise other people won't understand them. You need a cohesive, universal idea of what the word means for the word to be able to be used. This is how language works. It probably goes over your head. I don't know who that is. Is he Danish? I'm not Danish. I don't know Danish culture. It was all about people recognizing bigotry. No, it was about people being bigots.
I said white people cry, what's the goal?
I mean, Disney's proved that.
There have been times where there's no way we're hungry a white male first.
You're like, I identify as that word, and everyone else looks at you and goes, we agree. Why are you complaining? The only difference is you think the word is good, and other people recognize it for what it is. Then she decides to call out the journalists, the people who have been sacrificing their credibility in a desperate attempt to preserve hers. When you've been given everything on a silver platter your entire life, being grateful for other people helping you doesn't come naturally. Quite frankly, journalists, I'm not sure why you bother. Did you forget it's your job to provide the truth? Are you sure that's the card you want to play? Because they've been lying to defend you. The journalists to tell you the truth about your show, because we could see the truth about your show, because the audience already is. Do you want to attack the rest of them? Spreading divisiveness and mining the metrics. You literally come out and attack people and crap on them and then going, oh my god, don't be divisive. What are we thinking? 65? I'm not sure. I love the way mining the metrics. No, if they were mining metrics, they'd be popular. If they were giving the audience what they wanted by telling the truth, they'd be popular. It seems you gave up on your ethics for money and views. You can't even get views on your own pissing show. Why would they side with you if they were after views? I can tell that people are tired, yes, of Star Wars by the looks of it.
She's coming and it's always the youth.
The future's come, it's those ignorant people over there. I think 65, she genuinely thinks she has something to learn from children. I've never looked at a kid and gone, you're more intelligent than me. She does. 400 years of what? You're pissing Danish. America hasn't even been around for 400 years, has it? She must be talking about the Danish. Compartmentalize my ancestors. This isn't Assassin's Creed, you crazy bint. You've not been putting a time machine. You don't know what it was like to grow up poor. You don't even know what it's like to hear the word no. Let alone caged. Says, if you don't confront the pain you live with, multi-millionaire-ass, I'm sure she's got a lot of issues. Then she basically goes, I've got mental issues. I mean, honestly, if you're in Hollywood, the biggest danger to you is the people in it, let alone anything else. Yeah, I won't go in an early grave. No, it's because you've come from a rich background, you're rich now, and therefore will be able to live in a nice house with nice food and be very healthy. That definitely won't happen to you, because you're so privileged.
Art is not activism. I'm not sure what it is. I just know it's not these things.
I mean, look, you've already come in and ruined Star Wars. How many other properties do you have to destroy before you're satisfied? Is that how you release the tension? You just come along and destroy another IP that was made by someone better than you? I don't know. And while one actress was busy smearing her excrement onto the faces of the fans, the creator decided to come out and call them stupid as well. Don't you understand? This series isn't unusual with a capital U, despite what we've said in interviews.
The gayest Star Wars.
I'm frankly into it.
No, the story's being read in unintended ways. Is it? Because that's unusual. Because it seems every actress in the show is coming out and saying it. Even Daphne Queen goes, by the way, she's definitely crushing on Osha. That's how I was playing it.
I'm better company than a droid, and way more flexible.
This entire article hinges on the fact people are just too stupid. They're reading it wrong. They're reading into it things I never wrote. Well, you cast it going, no, it's definitely that. It's true, it is. Honestly, the main problem with Hollywood's PR is they think everybody is as stupid as they are. We'll just say two things at different times. They won't remember what they heard yesterday. There's not a chance. This is how you end up with comments like, you clipped me out of context. No, it wasn't out of context, was it? It was put in context with other things.
We were hunted.
What's going on with her?
Executed. Forced into hiding.
That's why I like to put lots of articles and interviews into one video, because the bigger the pitch you have of something, the worse you realise it is. Well, we got Stenberg, who identifies as multiple checkboxes today. The Acolyte has been well received by critics. There's more about the critics than anybody else, doesn't it? However, as someone who generally pushes back that unusual artists are capable of creating only unusual art,
I guess you could call it activism.
Art is not activism, and art is not journalism.
And what she says in this interview, she goes, they're in a matriarchal society. I knew that this is how it would read, and there aren't any men there. So a closeness between the two of them is natural, and we saw it in the show. An intense closeness.
I told you this planet would be safe haven for our coven.
But it seemed plot-driven. It's a plot that you wrote. You could have had men there. You didn't have to make them that way, but you chose to. Because it's what you are, and you wanted to be represented. You wanted to make this thing. And then you're like, I can't believe it happened. It just seemed to spring out of thin air.
I just try to treat everything as if we're on RuPaul's Drag Race.
It doesn't just spring into the ether. You write it. You make it. You're the one who thinks it's important that it represents you, even though you're a tiny fraction of the population, and nobody else cares. I would say that it's really reductive to call them this.
I told you this planet would be safe haven for our coven.
But if two people are smashing themselves together, does it really make a difference? They identify as a tree. That makes them vegans. I don't think it matters. I think it means you're not really paying attention to the story. Okay, why did you put it in the story?
I carried them. I created them.
If it's not important, why did you put it in at all? Because you're the one that put it in the show, not anyone else. Everyone else is just talking about the thing that you created. You're the one who made it the central through line of the story. You're the one who had an entire scene of them getting their rocks off. What are you doing to her?
Come.
You can't get away with this by just gaslighting people. They're not as stupid as you are. I know you think you're really smart, and somehow you're getting... Oh, I tell you what, I'll say we never actually said it in the show. Just because you're explaining why you feel the need to spoon-feed everything to people in the show, it doesn't actually get you off the hook. Other people can understand things that aren't spelt out to them.
I told you this planet would be safe haven for our coven.
I carried them. I created them.
But she says I'm not stressing by anything that might speak to unusual audience members. I'm proud that I've accomplished this feat, and certainly, if my content is this, I don't want to disown it. I would be proud to create it. What are you whining about then? We've essentially gone, I don't know why people are saying that, it's not that thing, okay it is, and that's a good thing. In a few paragraphs. You've already said it in an interview, I'm not sure why you're running away from it now, apart from the fact that you realise it is success poison, because it means that your show is only made for 0.01% of the audience. Congratulations. I tell you what, that's like a pop band from hell, isn't it? Like most creatives, Headland welcomes constructive criticism of a series, as long as you don't criticise it. But I feel sad that people will want to think that if something were made for me, that would be bad. It means that it's not Star Wars. It really is that simple. It means that you've made fan fiction for your little fantasy thing to read back to yourself and go, oh, this is amazing. But it's not meant for the male-dominated audience that want to see people hit each other with lightsabers. I'm 100% sure there is an audience for it, but it is a tiny fraction of the population that is so small, you wouldn't be able to make a profit on it with a normal TV budget, let alone $180 million. Because you're also relying them not just to bat on that side of the fence, but also care about it and treat it like it's their personality, rather than something they do in the privacy of their own home, and then doesn't really impact on the rest of their lives. It makes me feel sad that a bunch of people on the internet would somehow dismantle what I consider to be the most important piece of art that I've ever made.
Art is not activism. I'm not sure what it is. I just know it's not these things.
This isn't art. This is you writing fan fiction and pointing a camera at it. You're not an artist, nor the actors. You're not doing vital work. Because for it to be either, it'd have to be good. And for it to be good, the audience would have to like it. And the audience don't. Art only matters if it has some kind of impression, lasting impression, on a lot of people. And that means they have to like it.
Whoever convince everybody else in their story controls power. So basically history is controlled by great artists. And maybe horrible people.
The Acolyte, it's not art. The Acolyte won't leave an impression. The only time the Acolyte will be mentioned is in reference to, do you remember how bad that thing was? Generally in relation to whatever Disney makes, to see if it's worse. The only thing you've achieved is to swap your name in place of the Book of Boba Fett. You need an example of something that was created not to entertain, but to be your personal political PowerPoint.
It's like this interesting balance of the personal as political.
I take responsibility.
Now they're back playing a completely different game of sorts. The game of acting?
Yes, yes.
Something to increase the ego of Amandla and to give her another platform in which to go and crap on all of the fans of Star Wars. Then that will be your legacy. But artist, creator, entertainer, these are not things you will be remembered for. But you will be remembered as that person that made the show about them. You spent $180 million in order to write a letter to your sister. And while you were there, you were like, maybe we should just make it all about me and, you know, the people I bang. And that's just not something anyone cares about. And they don't even care about that for the main actors. Because for anyone to care about that about you, you don't just have to be attractive. You also have to not be insufferable. And that seems to be something the cast of this show just can't manage. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.